All right, guys, Cody here. It's been a while since I put out a video. Been a couple weeks. Things are getting busy. Back at work. So I'll still try to keep up with these as much as I can. Send your questions. Keep sending the questions, and I'll get to them whenever I have the proper amount of time. Some of the questions tonight mostly are anecdotal, maybe stories or experiences. Nothing, no hard and fast kind of questions about the agency specifically, or how to get in and things like that. But I'll go over the questions real quick. How is it working with foreign service officers at embassies? Basically, how's it working with non-law enforcement or former law enforcement? Was MSD in Benghazi? Secretary Pompeo said something like he'd use all the power of the U.S. government to rescue those dudes in Venezuela, and was that MSD? And then my thoughts on the former SF guys that are in Venezuela that got caught up. So anyway, how's it working with how is it working with foreign service officers? Listen, I thought it was great. I had a really good experience with these guys. I mean, the only other place I could think of a more diverse group of individuals from all around the U.S. is the military. The second one would be the State Department. You have individuals from all over the U.S., from all over the world. Some have immigrated. They were born in a foreign country. They become U.S. citizens. They become foreign service officers. You're talking really smart people, generally pretty savvy, generally have great interpersonal skills. I say generally because there are always some that lack a little bit of common sense, that think they're too smart and too good for some things. But overall, I've had a really good experience dealing with them. Now I realize, and I don't know the facts, the statistics on this, but by far, in my opinion, DS agents are far more, or the majority are more conservative leaning, reasonable, not waving the Trump flag, and some might be as well, but. And liberals are foreign service officers are often more left-leaning. They were waving the Obama flag, and I don't know what flag they're waving now. But generally, when you're overseas, whether you're a conservative or a liberal, you try to put that aside and you work together. You don't really talk about. I talked about politics back then. That's whenever when you talked about politics, knives weren't coming out, right? Knives drawn. And I got along with people that believed, say, let's give Ho Chi Minh City, for example, because in Baghdad and Erbil, there were a ton of guns. There were a ton of shooters out there and we had the same belief system. But I'm a conservative. I got along great with probably the majority of individuals in Ho Chi Minh City at the U.S. consulate there were liberals, but still good people, right? They're still reasonable, like to have a good time. Shit, we partied. We would have events together. We would work well together. There are a lot of good times. So, I will say that as you begin to grow with the department and you become more senior, you're going to deal with a deputy chief of mission, which is like the second, what is second to the ambassador. And you might deal with the ambassador. Oftentimes, let me scratch that. Not oftentimes. Many times, sometimes the ambassadors are political appointees, in which case, they're not going to appoint, if it's a conservative president, they're not going to appoint some liberal. And if it's a liberal, they're not going to appoint a conservative. So, there's times where you're going to be dealing with an individual that really just has a whole different worldview than you might. When you're in senior leadership in the department, you're dealing with a political appointee who's an ambassador, and politics could come into the equation. It wouldn't cost you your job or anything. It's just, you gotta learn, or this is really important. You gotta learn how to navigate the system and navigate people and the different personalities. And one of the things that you're tested for when you become or en route to becoming a DS agent is your interpersonal skills, right? So when you go into the interview, it's very important that you're shaking hands, you're looking in the eye, you're being respectful, you're articulating yourself and your vision and your answers and whatever it is you need to do to get to that level, because you are going to be a diplomat when you serve overseas. And a lot of posts, probably most posts, you're not carrying your gun. I mean, you're like the local sheriff, quote unquote, but you're not carrying your gun. So get that out of your head. If you want to come into DS and you go overseas, that's just part of it. You're a security manager. You're a special agent, and you're the lead federal agent in charge of the consulate or embassy. And you're the U.S., you're the head law enforcement agent in the country. But most of that's done without carrying a gun. So that's my thoughts. Was MSD in Benghazi? No. As far as I know, no. And I'm pretty confident, 99.9% sure. Now, were any of those dudes former MSD? Maybe. But my understanding, there were however many dudes there were. Showed 4 in the movie. I'm not too familiar with it. I was in I think Vietnam when it happened. But they're all high threat trained. My understanding is only one of them had been in theater before. DS doesn't always make the best decisions when they send people to post. Sometimes it's just a body. In my opinion, and granted, I didn't read the report that came out of this. This is just from what I've heard from fellow agents that have read it or that know the guys there. They were just scooped up and sent down there. And of course they had to have, to be in Libya at the time, I believe you had to have the high threat tactical training. But they were sent down there and to do a job. And I don't know how well they were represented in the movie 13 Hours. I mean, if there were 4 of them, if there are 5 of them, if there are 6 of them, generally you already have your kid. They might not have been kitted up. They might have been smoking hookah like they were, because we do smoke hookah in those countries. And they might have been in fucking flip-flops, because sometimes we wear flip-flops. Probably shouldn't, but, sometimes you do shit. But generally, there's a scene where these motherfuckers are throwing their, like, grabbing them rounds, and the rounds are falling everywhere. Generally, that shit's already prepped. You got your kit set up. You have your rounds and your mags. You got your mags set up. Everything's set up for you. So, and that's a tough situation. If you're there and there's 4, 5, 6 of you and you're getting the fucking compound run over, yeah, you want to defend it, but are you going to shoot whenever there's 60 motherfuckers coming at you with AKs and heavier weapons? I mean, you will when you have to, but do you want to give up that position that you're in if you are, for example, protecting the ambassador? You'll fight at the end. Now, fire was something new that's now implemented into the training, but fire was something we hadn't faced that was as serious, and so those guys weren't prepared. And there's more I could go at length on my thoughts on the assignments of those dudes there and how it went down. Again, but to speak intelligently about it to a certain level, I didn't read the report, the Benghazi report. Maybe I should before I talk any further about it. But no, it wasn't MSD. Anyway, Secretary Pompeo said he'd use all the power of the U.S. government or something like that to rescue the dudes that are in Venezuela. Is that an MSD thing? Fuck no, it's not an MSD thing. That's a DevGru, SEAL Team 6, CAG type thing, if they were even to attempt, and I suspect they won't. That is not an MSD thing. MSD, I know, that's the question I get the most about. MSD is, again, I've said this on several videos, great fucking training. Some of the dudes that go there are real good dudes, former military, some probably former special forces or special ops. But again, the vetting process is not as heavy or hard as it is to be in one of those elite units. You can get into MSD if you just barely pass your quals and do, pretty well, you're going to pass. MSD's trained to do a lot of shit. But the government, I've said this before, the State Department kind of has their hands tied. And I do think there's a certain level, because it's not like FBI, HRT. HRT apparently has a very strict process. Vetting process is hard to fucking get in. MSD's not like that. And one of the reasons I think it is because we're part of the State Department. The State Department is such a liberal branch of government, and they try to be fair in everything they do. And so they want it to be a fair and balanced type organization in which it's not treating people like they don't belong, and they should. If you're going to be a fucking elite unit, and I'll reiterate, some fucking solid dudes there that could do it. But then there are a lot of them that are there that probably shouldn't be, and they couldn't. And if you talk to any MSD dudes, I'm going to have one of my podcasts. I'm starting to record for the podcast. I'm going to have several, but one's already talking about some of the things he wants to talk about, and he was a good dude. And I try to ping that and get him to talk about it a little bit. And the last one was, what are my thoughts on the whole former SF guys in Venezuela? Do I think it was the U.S. government that did it? I don't think so. I don't know. I mean, the trade craft's pretty shit if they're carrying their regular passports. They got caught and they got a freaking passport of all the information they have, and it seemed like more of a ragtag group of dudes that went or maybe got hired onto this company to do some cool shit, and they shouldn't have. So I don't think that the U.S. was involved in that. But I don't know. It's my opinion. Anyway, I mentioned the podcast a little bit ago. It will be coming up. I don't know when. I'm trying to find times and place to record. I want to record several so that I can kind of put them out and make sure that you have some to listen to. But it's going to be primarily DS agents, former DS agents, security contractors, Marine security guards, any and everything to do with diplomatic security. It's going to be there. It's called Off the X Podcast. If you're not familiar with the term Off the X, it's basically getting out of the kill zone. Is what is used for in protection. So that's going to be coming out. If you're interested in learning more, or at least getting the heads up, I mean, just sign up to the YouTube or to my freaking Agents Unknown _book at Instagram. I have Twitter. I'm not on it as much, but usually when I post to Instagram, it links. I have a Facebook, Agents Unknown. But you got a website where you can find all that shit, and you can subscribe to emails. And I'm going to put out an email saying, this shit's fucking starting, right? So check it out. Audiobooks out, doing pretty well. Selling better than I thought. A lot of people just want to listen to a book when they're driving to work, or sitting around the yard doing yard work. It's good. You can hear some stuff about DS. I joke about not finding my reading voice till about chapter 4 or 5, but I've had pretty good reviews. People said I did a decent job at it. Well, they said I did a good job. I think I did a moderately good job, just because I didn't practice as much as I should have reading. But I think it came out okay. Got some pretty good reviews. Got a couple shit reviews. Some people think it's shit. Fuck it. Part of life. But anyway, go check out the audiobook if you haven't listened. Again, it's me that fucking reads it, man. So appreciate all your support, and wish I could be doing these a little more often, but such is life. Things get busy, but I will keep doing them. And if you have specific questions, post them on YouTube, hit me up on Instagram, go to my website, you'll see my email. Just shoot me an email. I'm pretty responsive on it. I try to be responsive on everything, but I'm not so tech savvy. So anyway, appreciate everyone. Thanks for the support. Let me know if y'all got any questions. Thanks, y'all. Out.